A stone monument stands outside an ancient tomb in central China. It is massive, carefully carved, and completely blank. No name. No title. No record of a life that changed an empire forever. For over 1,000 years, visitors have stared at that empty stone and asked the same question: why would the most powerful woman in Chinese history choose silence over her own legacy? The answer begins decades earlier, inside a palace where survival meant becoming someone the world would never forgive. Her name was Zetian. She was born in 624, into a wealthy family in Tang Dynasty China, at a time when women held almost no formal power. At 14, she was sent to the imperial palace as a low-ranking concubine of Emperor Taizong, one of the most respected rulers in Chinese history. Life inside the palace walls was elegant on the surface and ruthless underneath. Thousands of women competed for the emperor's attention, knowing that favor could mean comfort and neglect could mean a lifetime of obscurity. Zetian was intelligent, sharp-tongued, and unusually confident for someone her age. But intelligence alone did not guarantee survival in a system built on hierarchy and fear. When Emperor Taizong died in 649, tradition demanded something brutal. Concubines without children were sent to a Buddhist monastery, their hair shaved, their former lives erased. This should have been the end of her story. Instead, it became the beginning of something almost no one could have predicted. The next emperor, Gaozong, had known her during his father's reign. Historical records suggest a mutual attraction had already formed before Taizong's death, a relationship considered deeply inappropriate, even dangerous, under Confucian tradition. Somehow, Zetian returned to the palace, not as a forgotten former concubine, but as a rising favorite of the new emperor. It was a scandalous reversal, and it made her a target of suspicion from the very beginning. Inside the palace, a fierce rivalry was already forming. Empress Wang, Gaozong's official wife, initially welcomed Zetian back, hoping to use her as a rival against another powerful concubine. It was a serious miscalculation. Zetian was not a pawn. She understood the palace's invisible rules of loyalty, favor, and quiet manipulation, and she began to master them. Then came a moment that would haunt her reputation for centuries. Historical chronicles from the following Tang dynasty claim that Zetian's infant daughter died suddenly, and that she accused Empress Wang of the killing to secure her own rise to power. Some later sources go further, claiming Zetian caused the death herself. This is where historical accuracy demands caution. Modern historians widely question these accounts. They were written decades after her death, often by officials hostile to female rule, in a political culture eager to portray a woman in power as unnatural or monstrous. Surviving evidence cannot confirm what truly happened to the child. What is confirmed is the outcome: Empress Wang was removed, and in 655, Zetian became empress. For a story built on ambition, this should have felt like victory. But the palace offered no safety, only new dangers. As empress, she faced constant threats from officials who viewed her position as illegitimate, and from rival family members eager to weaken her influence. If you're enjoying uncovering the layers behind this often misunderstood ruler, stay with the story. What comes next changes everything about how she used power. In 660, Emperor Gaozong suffered a serious stroke. His health declined for the rest of his life, and Zetian began taking on real governing responsibilities, reading reports, making decisions, and directly influencing state affairs. For the first time, a woman was operating at the very center of imperial government, not through influence behind a curtain, but through direct authority. Officials began referring to the imperial couple as the two sages, acknowledging, even if reluctantly, that she now shared power equally with the emperor. When Gaozong died in 683, the situation grew even more delicate. Their sons inherited the throne, one after another, but Wu Zetian remained the true center of power, acting as regent. This arrangement created enormous tension. Confucian tradition insisted that political authority belonged to men, passed from father to son. A woman ruling through her sons, however capable, threatened the entire philosophical foundation of the empire. To protect her position, Wu Zetian relied on a network of informants and secret investigators, a system historians often compare to early surveillance networks. Accusations of treason increased. Punishments for disloyalty became severe. Members of the old aristocracy, particularly families connected to the previous imperial line, faced exile or execution if suspected of plotting against her. This period reveals one of the central truths about her reign: her rise depended on decisive, sometimes ruthless action, but her survival depended on constant vigilance against enemies who believed she had no right to rule at all. And then, in 690, she did something no woman in Chinese history had done before, and none would do again. She did not simply rule through her sons. She removed the last one from the throne and declared herself emperor, founding a new dynasty called Zhu. She adopted new characters, new rituals, and new symbols of power, deliberately separating her rule from the Tang dynasty that had shaped her early life. It was an extraordinary act of self-assertion in a political culture that considered female sovereignty almost unthinkable. This is the turning point where her story becomes genuinely complicated, because what followed was not simple tyranny. Under her direct rule, the empire did not collapse. In many ways, it flourished. She expanded the imperial examination system, allowing men from non-aristocratic backgrounds to earn government positions through merit rather than inherited privilege. This weakened the old noble families who had long resisted her, while creating opportunities for talented officials who might otherwise have been ignored. She supported agricultural projects, expanded diplomatic relations, and maintained relative stability across a vast and diverse empire. Buddhism flourished under her patronage, partly because Buddhist texts, unlike rigid Confucian tradition, offered ideas that could support the legitimacy of a female ruler. Yet the same reign that produced genuine administrative achievement also depended on fear. Historical records describe secret police units and networks of informants who investigated potential enemies, sometimes based on flimsy evidence. Officials lived with the knowledge that a single accusation could end a career or a life. This dual reality is essential to understanding her, a ruler capable of building effective institutions, and a ruler who maintained power partly through calculated intimidation. By her final years, Wu Zetian was in her 80s, still holding the throne long after most rulers would have stepped aside. Her health was failing. Court officials, some loyal to the old Tang line, grew increasingly restless, watching an aging empress cling to a dynasty many still viewed as illegitimate. In 705, a group of officials organized a coup. They stormed her private quarters, forced her to abdicate, and restored her son to the throne, reviving the Tang dynasty she had once replaced. Wu Zetian, once the most feared ruler in the empire, spent her final months as a powerless figure inside the palace she had dominated for decades. She died later that same year. What happened after her death may be even more revealing than the reign itself. Her tomb, built according to her instructions, includes that enormous blank stone, standing beside a matching monument covered in inscriptions honoring Emperor Gaozong. Historians have debated the meaning of her wordless stele for centuries. Some believe it reflects extraordinary humility, a final acknowledgement that her achievements were too vast for words. Others argue the opposite, that it represents supreme confidence, a statement that her legacy did not require explanation or justification from anyone. Still others suggest the blank stone was never meant to stay empty, and that later Tang rulers, uncomfortable with honoring a woman who seized the throne, simply chose never to inscribe it. The truth remains unresolved, and it may stay that way permanently. For centuries afterward, Chinese historians, almost entirely men writing within a tradition that viewed female rule as fundamentally wrong, painted her as manipulative, murderous, and unnatural. Many of the most extreme accusations against her, including the death of her infant daughter, cannot be verified through contemporary evidence. This does not mean she was innocent of every ruthless act attributed to her. Her rise clearly involved calculated cruelty toward rivals, and her rule depended on fear as much as competence. But it does mean that much of her monstrous reputation was shaped less by what she did, and more by the fact that she did it as a woman in a role reserved exclusively for men. Modern historians have increasingly re-examined her reign with a more balanced lens, recognizing both her genuine administrative achievements and the darker methods she used to secure and maintain power. She remains one of history's most contradictory figures, a woman who entered the palace with almost no power at all, and left it having reshaped the very definition of who could rule an empire. Before we close this story, it's worth pausing on something simple. Learning history in another language, the way you're doing right now, helps memory stay long after the details fade. If this kind of story helps you learn naturally, there are more waiting to be explored. That empty stone outside her tomb still stands today, silent after more than 13 centuries. It asks a question no historian has fully answered, and perhaps no historian ever will. Was it humility, confidence, or an erasure forced by those who came after her? Maybe the true meaning is simpler than any single interpretation. Zetian spent her entire life fighting to be seen, remembered, and respected in a world built to deny her all three. In the end, she left behind a monument that says nothing, and somehow still says everything.